In every great side, there is always a great goalkeeper between the sticks, and the double side was no exception.
Bill Brown was a very good goalkeeper. I mean, he was of slender build, but he was a commanding goalkeeper. He had a good centre half in front of him in terms of being good with this thing, which does help.
Bill Brown was built like a matchstick. You wouldn't have thought he'd been a great shot stopper.
A Scottish goalkeeper, Bill Brown gave excellent service to the club and continued the dynasty of great Spurs goalkeepers, ranking up there on performances alone with the likes of Ditchburn and Jennings.
I was an admirer of Bill Brown, who came around at the time when Scottish goalkeepers didn't have the greatest reputation, and he changed all that.
I thought he was a very, very good goalkeeper in his own way. He hadn't got the physical power and presence of Ditchburn, but he was extremely agile, brave, of course, as all good goalkeepers are, and he had very good anticipation, and he was very agile and athletic in goal. I thought excellent keeper.
You can't do anything with the ball if you don't win it, and Graham Roberts, that was his task, was to win the ball. And he did so in no uncertain terms. It's all about balance, and he gave Tottenham balance and also leadership. When things were going wrong, he was the sort of proverbial roll up the sleeves chap, saying, "Come on, this is not good enough. We're going to do this, that, and the other." And there was a few people who got in his way for the next 5 minutes knew they got in his way.
Yes, he was. I mean, he was a powerful defensive player with good positional sense and a strong tackle. I think he gave them very, very good service. He's just the sort of character you wanted in the middle of a defence.
I don't think it would have mattered where you played Graham Roberts, and he could play in a number of positions. He could play centre half, he could play defensive midfield. He could, if things were going badly, he could do a pretty passable job at centre forward in his own style, which was totally uncompromising. If the theory is don't pull out of a tackle because then you will get hurt, there was never any danger of him getting hurt, because his tackles are remembered with great affection.
Kid from non-league like me, very hungry player. Had a couple of years at Tottenham where he was absolutely outstanding. He played at the back, he played in midfield. He was a driving force. Obviously scored in the UEFA Cup final. He was magnificent for, you know, he's probably one of the best midfield players in the country at the time. Great servant to the club, and a winner, really, absolutely.
When you look back on 1984 UEFA Cup final, people forget that it wouldn't have been in the penalty competition but for the tenacity of Graham Roberts getting the equaliser to take it on, and then had a typical blasting penalty, as I recall. He was a guy who didn't stand on ceremony, got on with it, whatever he was doing.
He was very brave with his head and very strong with his head, and he'd go up for corners and free kicks, and was very, very, very threatening then, and quite productive.
He was a good leader too, and he managed to get quite a lot out of coming quite late to the top of the game. I mean, he only had 6 years with Spurs, and they were memorable years. Things were won, and they carried a few bodies out.
Tommy Harmer, like many of the great Spurs players, came through the ranks of the club, just missing out on playing in the championship-winning side of 1951.
It was actually a privilege to see his debut. He's a tiny little fellow, also from the East End of London, who had played for Finchley as their Spurs nursery team. And he made his debut against Bolton in August '51. And he was a tiny little shrimp, and there were these huge, great Bolton players. They couldn't get near him. The crowd went mad. They were so delighted by his ball skills, his juggling, and that he used the ball so well.
He really was very, very gifted in how he used it, in my memory. And the crowd were always happy to see him.
An obvious crowd favourite, but Tommy took a while to cement his place in the starting 11 in the early years.
And of course he was a marvellous player, but of course he wasn't an Arthur Rowe type player, but he became a great star later on. because although he was small and fragile, he was an absolute adept in the through pass and the crossfield ball, and that wasn't what Arthur wanted. Arthur wanted the push and run stuff, but I thought he became one of the most remarkable players of his day.
It's a little bit unfair to say he made cameo appearances, because he didn't, it wasn't in the time when you could come on for the last 10 minutes or whatever. But during the course of the 90 minutes, there would be a cameo appearance from Tommy Harmer that people would still be talking about come Wednesday of the following week, when they'd actually forgotten the result of the match.
Ask anyone and the first image of Alf Ramsey would be at the head of the 1966 England team, leading them out to glory in the World Cup. But he was also a great fullback in his playing days.
Great footballer. I mean, he'd never just kick a ball anywhere. Always wanted to pass it, make it the right pass. And he was very good control on the ball, and what he did lack was pace. But he was a wonderful footballer, and it was obviously that he was going to go into management when he finished. And but of course, the funny stories about Alf sometimes is they used to have a meeting on a Friday, a team talk on a Friday, and Arthur would say, the manager would say, "Okay, how's everything? Okay now?" Yeah, and of course all the lads were ready to go, and Alf would say, "Excuse me, Arthur, but I've got something to say." So he was always one of those that was a bit on his own, you know what I mean? But that's what Alf was like,
No, he wasn't the fastest player on two legs. I don't think you would have seen Alf in the modern game of the overlapping fullback.
And the old joke used to be, although Ramsey was the great general and the great inspiration of the team, that Billy Nick used to do his tackling for him, and Sonny Waters, the outside right, used to do his running.
All joking aside though, Alf Ramsey was a phenomenal footballer, and his partnership with fellow great manager Bill Nicholson down the right of the push and run side is one that is fabled in Spurs legend.
The fullback role has developed over the years, but a lot of Tottenham attacks would start when Ramsey intercepted or won a tackle. He didn't waste too many balls, and he had huge support down that right flank. It was a very, very well balanced Tottenham side.
Alf Ramsey was the type of person, not very quick, good passer of a ball, not a great tackler, but Bill did his work, allowing Alf to be, what do you say, the footballer, I suppose, and Bill was the one who did the graft.
Ramsey would see the moment to make the interception, the moment to shuffle the player where that player didn't want to go. He was much more that sort of player, and he was a great fullback, no question.